We knew that it wasn't possible only to work with governments on matters which affect all sectors of society. That's why the dialogue was strengthened with the participation of lawmakers, indigenous peoples, civil society, business figures, academics and scientists and members of the media. In Cancun, everyone was able to take part within their means in the dialogue. Outside this setting and in your countries, public opinion will legitimately ask just what was achieved in practice. Many things were achieved, as you've already said. Above all, we achieved the thing which had been most missing, to get back to the path leading to shared global action. Prompted by the urgent need to act, given the gravity of the problem, we managed to adopt unprecedented measures in some respects to implement the commitments which we took on in 1992 when we concluded the Framework Convention, well nigh 20 years ago now. This will enable us to act, and act straight away. And very important, thereby to initiate a new era of cooperation in the context of climate change. We are taking the first steps today in this long but renewed course. A few days ago, a number of journalists asked me whether Cancun was going to be a success or a failure. I said, I don't know. It will depend on whether we can reach agreements, and it will also depend on the content of those agreements, if we manage to achieve them. I knew, and I explained, that an agreement between some 200 parties seemed almost impossible. Even if we achieved it, the paradox is that it would only be success, perhaps, if it had sought all that it achieved all that had been sought. But as a representative of Colombia said, a good agreement is one in which all the parties are left equally dissatisfied. That is the paradox of a multilateral negotiation. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, given the circumstances that we all know, given the precedents and the mistrust which existed when we arrived, I think that each and every one of you has succeeded here in a thoroughgoing success in many respects, and I'd like to explain why. First of all, it was a success because despite all the problems, we managed to reach agreement on a series of shared tasks. It was a success because for the first time, under these conventions, we agreed to set up shared targets maintaining the increase in the average global temperature below 2 degrees centigrade. That was clear expression of collective responsibility. Not that alone. We know, as was said here, that it's necessary to go beyond that. And that meant that we undertook to review and to improve that target in the light of the clear scientific evidence and the reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In saying so, we were thinking of our brothers in the island states which are at such risk. We know that we have to go beyond this in the future, and you're aware that we will never abandon you to your fate. We will be with you until we find a common solution for our common home. No one here has shirked from our unshakable objective of achieving a new period for the Kyoto Protocol through binding agreements. But if we're going to talk about mitigation, it's also worth reviewing the scope of what's been achieved in this respect today. The target contained for the first time in conference documents now formally adopted of avoiding going beyond 2 degrees. But in accordance with the mechanisms approved today, states parties If we simply ratify and fulfill mitigation efforts which we undertook unilaterally in recent months, what would be achieved by the Cancun Accords would result in a net reduction of emissions of CO2, not merely greater, but several times greater than what has been committed up until now in the Kyoto agreements. Undoubtedly, we're mindful that this is less than is necessary, but it quite clearly represents a significant step in the right direction. Not just a significant step, indeed. It is a step which cannot be postponed.